Hello, the topic of this clip is going to be about city infrastructure. Now, when we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about everything from sidewalks and streets to wastewater and drinking water pipes and everything basically in between. Now, as many of you may know, I did work at the Office of Community and Rural Affairs before running for mayor, and I got to work with a lot of different communities on their infrastructure problems. In fact, a good majority of what Okra did was working with infrastructure, and so this is a subject in which I know a pretty good amount about. Basically, here in Columbia City, we have a couple of different issues, and if you're following along with the Daniel plan, I'll kind of go along that route if you're following along there. So, basically, the city has a couple of main responsibilities. Obviously, police and fire protection. Obviously, governing a decent population of people. And we also have the burden of taking care of the infrastructure that makes sure that your toilets flush, that water comes out of your faucet, your trash gets picked up, and everything in between. So that is one of the main issues of the city. And as mayor, I think it's kind of important to have someone who has some background in city infrastructure to help move the city forward on that. So I'll kind of go down the list from the Daniel plan. Number one, it was talking about keeping utility rates as low as possible while growing the system. This is absolutely critical. If there's a couple of main issues that I heard during our neighborhood walks, one of the main issues was keeping utility rates low. I understand we've had a lot of rate increases over the last couple years. We all are paying the burden for that. I will tell you a little bit of background, what comes along with that. Part of it is the fact that the federal government has passed down this mandate to the state, who then passed it down to ourselves, to the local communities and counties, to improve our infrastructure, specifically in our sewers, and separate it from our stormwater. So, what used to happen was when a storm came along and dropped a couple of inches of rain, all of that water rushed into our sewer system toward our sewer plant. Now, as you probably guessed, our sewer plant can't necessarily handle a huge load of water coming all at once. Most sewer plants can't. We are upgrading our facility here in Columbia City, but we still won't be able to take care of a huge rainfall. So, what used to happen was we had sewer outfalls called CSOs, or combined sewer overflows. Those overflows basically went right into the creek. So what would happen was during a storm, when a lot of rain came rushing toward the sewer plant, that rain would basically lock in with the sewer water, and when there was an overflow, it would go out into the stream. Now, for obvious reasons, this wasn't necessarily always safe, but it was the most cost-effective method for cities and communities to try to control stormwater flow. Federal government has said no more of that. You have to close your combined sewer overflows, and everything either has to be separated, where you separate the stormwater from the sewer, or you have to have a plant big enough to take care of all of the water that comes in. So we're doing a little bit of both here in Columbia City. We have a retention basin that will be holding some of that. We're also separating parts of our system so that the stormwater will go into the creek and the sewer water will head toward the sewer plant. So this is a very difficult issue of keeping utility rates low. Really, the main way we're going to keep utility rates low and affordable is by growing our base. The more customers you have, the farther spread out costs become, and the more individuals will be able to keep in their pocketbooks rather than paying to our utility. Our utilities do a wonderful job. I don't want to just gloss over that. But I should point out that people are hurting. This economy is not good at all. And while it is slowly growing, it's still difficult for the regular average everyday person. And so with that, my goal, number one, is to try to keep utility rates as low as possible while still maintaining our infrastructure, making sure that it's up to code, making sure that we're growing our base, and making sure that we are making businesses and residents making their systems work perfectly. Second, as mayor, I do want to work on improving the stormwater issues, and I know these kind of go hand in hand, but this is separate, specifically for a couple of reasons. We have issues in Westgate as well as South Line Street. Now, I know we've been working on some of these issues in the past, but we still have a lot of ways to go. I have family that lives out at Westgate, and I've heard from a lot of individuals out there at Westgate that really find it impossible, really, when we have major water. Sometimes to go down the road, sometimes to go into their basement, sometimes to just walk outside onto their porch. A lot of this is because of flooding. My goal for that is to try to alleviate those issues, make that a priority. Frankly, when we when we annexed Westgate, the Westgate section into the city, I don't know if we really did our full homework on what that area entailed. But because of what they're called as swales, because of the way the land is and the drainage of the area, there's some major issues at Westgate that we need to take care of. And it should be the job of the city to take care of that straightforward, make sure the citizens and the residents of that area understand the plan going forward. I want to do that as your mayor. South Line Street is another issue. I can remember when we've had some heavy rains, that area floods like it's nobody's business. My hope is to go through that, try to find ways in which we can alleviate that flooding, push the stormwater out from the area, try to drain it into the creek or at the very least into the nearest area that isn't going to impact homeowners. Those are two issues there. The third issue, I'm going to continue working on the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, or IDEM, their long-term control plan. Any of these communities that had the combined sewer overflows, most of them, if not all of them, were put under a long-term control plan by the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. This long-term control plan laid out for the next 10 or 20 or 30 years, depending on the size of your community, what type of projects you had to do in order to improve the flows and the outfalls from that sewage stormwater mix. We actually just finished 2B, I believe, and we'll start. 2B is scheduled to begin in 2015. That will be something that this next administration will have to look forward to and will have to prepare and plan for. That'll take a lot of squeezing of pennies. It'll take a lot of forward proactive thinking, and it'll take a lot of growing our base so that the impact to the residents won't be as hard as it can be. We need to start looking for grant dollars. I'll be very upfront and honest about that. I worked at Okra and I worked in grants. There are grants out there specifically for small communities like ourselves to help improve the area, specifically for lower income areas. And that may be something we can look into. Grant money, remember, is your tax money that you've already sent to the federal government. And if we don't try to bring those dollars back in here, Albion, Angola, Auburn, Huntington, Portland, Hartford City, all of those communities are going to try to get our dollars. They're going to try to get as much grant dollars as they can get. And this is something I feel real passionate about. Let's try to bring your tax dollars back into your community and improve your pocketbooks, frankly. The last thing when it comes to infrastructure that's on the plan is talking about arranging a sit-down meeting with the Northeastern REMC and our electrical department. Some of you may know, some of you may not, that our electrical department and our electrical service goes clear out into Noble County and into the lake area. What you may also know or not know is that REMC has sections of our community that they serve power to. Specifically, Eagle Glen is a part of it. I know there's a lot of parts on the eastern side of our city and some on our south side that they give power to. And so with that, we really need to have a sit-down meeting with REMC and see if we can work out ways to be more cost-effective with our dollars, our trucks, our employees. How much does it cost for us to go into Noble County with a truck and 2 guys to fix a power line that Northeastern REMC is right across the road from, that they could go over and get it. In the same way, how cost effective is it for REMC to go from clear out in the county and then to come into the city and have to deal with power issues on both ends? I think it would be much better use of taxpayer dollars as well as utility payer dollars for REMC to have those utilities work out a common area so that they aren't coming necessarily so close to our territory and we aren't coming so close to their territory that it becomes inefficient and ineffective. Those are a couple of the issues that I want to address on infrastructure. Obviously, we need to continue maintaining our system. We need to keep growing our system. But the number one thing that I plan to focus on when it comes to infrastructure as mayor of Columbia City is keeping utility rates low. Thanks for listening and watching, and I hope you'll look at some of our other clips to find out a little bit more about the Daniel Plan. Thank you.